He is supposed to be just my stepfather. But one day I thought he crossed all lines, and I did not want to stop him. It was a rainy Tuesday. The sound of rain tapping against my window felt soft, almost comforting. I stayed in bed for a while, just listening. Then I got up, tied my hair in a loose bun, and walked to the kitchen in my pajamas. Mom had already left for work. It was just me and the quiet. I made coffee, sat down at the table, and scrolled through my phone half awake. And then he walked in. Daniel, my stepfather. He had a towel around his neck, and his t-shirt clung to his chest like he'd just stepped out of the shower. His hair was still damp, messy in a way that didn't look bad at all. In fact, he looked like someone straight out of a magazine. He smiled when he saw me. "Morning, sleepyhead," he said. His voice was warm, easy, like we were friends, not family. I smiled back. "Morning." As he poured himself coffee, I couldn't help but watch him. His movements were smooth, confident. He always smelled like something expensive, cologne mixed with minty soap. I didn't mean to notice these things, but I did. Maybe it was because we were close in age. Maybe because he always treated me like I mattered. Or maybe because he looked at me like he saw me. He sat across from me and sipped his coffee, eyes meeting mine for a second longer than usual. That's when I felt it. A shift. Small, quiet, but real. Something was different today, and I couldn't shake the feeling that my world was about to change. He stayed at the table longer than usual. Normally, Daniel would finish his coffee quickly and head out for work or the gym. But today he seemed relaxed, like he had nowhere else to be. "Rain's making everything slow," he said, glancing out the window. I nodded, but my eyes were on him. The way he held the mug, fingers wrapped around it, veins slightly visible. His forearms looked strong beneath the rolled-up sleeves of his t-shirt. He caught me looking. I quickly looked away. "You all right?" he asked, that half-smile still on his face. "Yeah, just tired," I replied, tucking a loose strand of hair behind my ear. He leaned back in his chair, watching me for a moment. There was something curious in his gaze. Not inappropriate, but not fatherly either. Then he stood up and walked over to the sink, right behind me. I felt his presence before I saw him. He reached past me to grab a towel from the counter, his arm brushing mine slightly. I held my breath. "You should eat something," he said, voice lower now. "Closer." "I'm not hungry," I whispered, barely trusting my voice. He paused for a second, long enough to feel it. That silence, that moment, and then he stepped back. "All right," he said casually, like nothing had happened. "Let me know if you change your mind." He walked out of the kitchen. I exhaled slowly, my heart racing. I wasn't sure what had just happened. Was he just being normal, friendly, or was there something more? And the bigger question, why did a part of me want it to be more? I tried to shake it off. That morning moment in the kitchen, maybe I imagined it. Maybe I wanted to imagine it. I changed into something comfortable. Just a plain, fitted t-shirt and soft joggers. Nothing special. Still, when I caught my reflection in the mirror, I paused. Lip balm. Loose hair. A hint of blush from the warm shower. Why was I even noticing myself? Later that afternoon, I was in the living room, trying to reach the top shelf of the bookcase. I stood on my toes, fingers barely grazing the corner of the box Mom had asked me to get down. And just then I heard him. "Careful," Daniel said from behind me. Before I could answer, I felt his hand, firm but gentle, on my lower back, steadying me. "You'll fall like that," he said, stepping closer. His chest brushed lightly against my shoulder as he reached over me and pulled the box down with ease. He didn't move away immediately. I turned my face slightly and found his eyes already on me. Closer than they should have been. Our faces were just inches apart now. He smelled like that same cologne. His skin looked smooth. His lips parted like he was about to say something, but he didn't. I should have stepped back, but I didn't. Instead, I froze, caught in that strange space between comfort and curiosity, between fear and wanting. He finally spoke softly. "You okay?" I nodded. My voice had left me. He handed me the box and stepped back like nothing had happened. But everything had happened. My hands were shaking, slightly, heart racing. I sat down on the couch, pretending to check something on my phone, trying to breathe. Why was he affecting me like this? More importantly, why did I not want it to stop? The rest of the day passed in a strange blur. I kept catching myself staring into space, replaying the moment with Daniel by the bookshelf. The way he looked at me, the way I didn't move away. I was in the study later, trying to organize some files for Mom when Daniel walked in again. This time in a black fitted shirt and jeans. His hair slightly tousled like he'd been running his hands through it. "You always do all the boring stuff around here," he said with a smile. I smiled back. "Well, someone has to." He walked over and sat on the edge of the table, close. Too close. His knee brushed mine. I pretended not to notice. "I owe you," he said suddenly, "for helping Mom. For everything." His voice was softer now, deeper. His eyes locked on mine. I nodded, unsure what to say. Then he leaned forward, reaching for a folder beside me. His hand brushed my arm, deliberately slow. His fingers grazed mine. "Isla," he said my name for the first time that day. It sounded different from him, like a secret. I looked up. Our faces were inches apart again. I could feel his breath on my skin. This time, neither of us moved. His hand gently touched my jaw, just for a second. His thumb brushed just beneath my lower lip, like he was about to wipe away a thought I didn't know I had. I closed my eyes, and just then, the front door opened. "Isla." Mom's voice rang out. "I'm home early." We jumped apart, like magnets reversed. Daniel stood up fast, rubbing the back of his neck. I quickly turned away, pretending to stack the papers I hadn't even touched. Mom entered the room a second later, suitcase in hand. "Hey, sweetheart. Change of plans. I'm going out of town for 2 days. Emergency at work." "Oh, okay," I said, hoping my voice sounded normal. She looked between the two of us, smiling. "You two okay holding the fort?" Daniel nodded, calm as ever. "Of course. We'll manage." I forced a smile. "Yeah, no problem." But my heart was thudding. 2 days, just me and him. And I didn't know if I was terrified or thrilled. Mom wheeled her suitcase into the hallway while I followed behind her, still trying to steady my breathing. She turned to me with a soft smile and opened her arms. "I'll miss you," she said, pulling me into a hug. Her embrace felt warm, familiar, safe. I held her a little tighter than usual, maybe because part of me wished I could stay in that simplicity a little longer. She pulled back and cupped my face gently, the way she used to when I was younger. Then her eyes narrowed slightly. "You have something on your lower lip," she said with a small frown. Before I could react, she raised her thumb and wiped just beneath my mouth. "There," she said. "Got it." I froze. Her touch was so similar to what had happened moments ago with Daniel. His thumb, the softness, the pause. My heart skipped. Was he wiping something off too? Or was he about to do something else? My thoughts spun in a quiet panic. Was I imagining everything? Or had there really been something more in his touch? Earth to Isla? Mom said playfully. I blinked, forcing a smile. "Yeah, sorry. Just thinking." She gave me a kiss on the forehead. "Don't overthink things. I'll call you once I reach the hotel, okay?" I nodded, watching her leave. The door closed behind her with a soft thud, and suddenly the house felt louder in its silence. Daniel was still here, and I couldn't stop replaying the moment. Not with Mom. With him. The house felt too quiet. I stayed in my room for a while after Mom left, pretending to scroll through my phone. But I wasn't really reading anything. My mind kept drifting. To the kitchen, to the study, to him. A soft knock on my door pulled me back. "Isla." Daniel's voice. "Yeah," I said, sitting up quickly. He pushed the door open gently. I made tea. Thought you might want some. I hesitated, then nodded. Okay, thanks. He stepped in, holding 2 mugs. He handed me one and sat at the edge of my bed without asking. Like it was normal. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. I used the vanilla one you like, he said casually. I smiled, surprised he remembered. We sipped in silence for a moment. The light from the bedside lamp cast a soft, golden hue on his face. He looked calm, comfortable, but I wasn't. Not when his knee brushed mine again. Not when he leaned back on his hand and looked at me, eyes lingering just a bit longer. You seem quiet tonight, he said. I'm just tired, I guess, I lied. He nodded slowly, then tilted his head. Or, are you overthinking again? I looked at him, startled. What? You do that when something's bothering you. He was watching me too closely. Is something bothering you? He asked, his voice lower now. I opened my mouth, then closed it. What could I even say? He reached out, slowly, deliberately, and brushed a strand of hair behind my ear. The touch sent a quiet shiver through me. You always do that, he said softly. Hide behind your hair. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. His hand stayed for just a second longer than it should have. Fingers grazing my jaw, trailing down lightly. My heartbeat was loud. Too loud. I should have said something. I should have moved. But I didn't want to. I wanted something. But I didn't know what. Then, suddenly, he stood up. Took a step back like nothing had happened. Get some sleep, he said, his voice calm again. And just like that, he walked out, gently closing the door behind him. I stared at the door long after he left. What was he doing? What did he want from me? And why did a part of me wish he hadn't stopped? I lay down, pulling the blanket up, but sleep didn't come. Only questions, and a heat that wouldn't go away. I barely slept. I tossed and turned all night, trying to silence the thoughts in my head. But his voice, his touch, his eyes, they followed me like shadows. When I finally drifted off, the sky was already pale. So, of course, I woke up late. The smell of coffee and something buttery floated into my room. I sat up, blinking. The clock read 10:43 a.m. I grabbed a towel and went straight to the shower, hoping cold water would calm my racing thoughts. It didn't. When I stepped out, skin still damp, wrapped in my robe, I heard a soft knock on the bathroom door. Isla. It was him. Again. Yeah. I made breakfast. Thought I'd let you know before it gets cold. I hesitated, then pulled the door open just a few inches. Enough to see him. He stood there holding a tray. Eggs, toast, fresh fruit, and 2 cups of coffee. His shirt was snug across his chest. Casual, effortless, dangerous. But it wasn't the tray that caught me off guard. It was the way his eyes slowly moved from my damp hair down to the soft line of my collarbone, and then back up, locking with mine. His gaze wasn't rushed or embarrassed. It was confident, intentional. I clutched my robe tighter. You didn't have to bring it here, I said, trying to sound casual. I wanted to, he said simply. He stepped forward, gently setting the tray on the dresser beside me. Then, before stepping back, his fingers brushed mine, just lightly, just enough. Water dripped from my hair onto my collarbone. His eyes flickered there again. You have, he said, lifting his hand slowly. I didn't stop him. His thumb gently wiped a single droplet of water from my skin. I always thought water looked beautiful on you, he said quietly. I froze. What did that even mean? Before I could respond, he smiled, soft knowing, and walked out, leaving the door slightly ajar behind him. I stood there, heart pounding, lips parted, breath uneven. He didn't touch me in any wrong way. He didn't say anything too far. And yet it felt more dangerous than anything else, because I didn't know where this was going. And deep inside, I wasn't sure if I wanted it to stop. I changed quickly, still reeling from that moment at the door. When I walked into the kitchen, Daniel was already seated, sipping coffee. He looked up and smiled, not in that teasing, unreadable way, but softly. Sleep okay, he asked. Eventually, I said, sliding into the chair across from him. The breakfast looked perfect. Toast, scrambled eggs, buttery croissants, and a tiny bowl of strawberries, my favorite. We started eating in silence, but it wasn't awkward anymore. It was calm. After a few bites, he set his cup down and looked at me with a different kind of seriousness. I think I confused you, he said. I looked up, fork halfway to my mouth. I didn't mean to, he continued. You've been amazing, helping your mom, holding everything together. I stayed quiet, not sure where this was going. He sighed. I guess part of me just wanted you to feel cared for, like you weren't alone. I tilted my head slightly. Why? His voice dropped to something quieter, more raw, because I know what it's like to miss someone you love. He paused. I have a daughter, he said. Her name's Liana. She's 5. My heart caught. I don't get to see her often, he added. She lives with her mom, far from here. And when I do see her, it's never enough. I miss the small things. Her laughter, her little hand grabbing mine, her running into my arms. He smiled to himself, then looked at me again. You remind me of her sometimes. That surprised me. Not in a childish way, he clarified, almost reading my mind, but the way you hold in your feelings, the way you act strong. She does that too when she's trying not to cry. My throat tightened. I guess when I look at you, something in me just wants to protect, to make sure you never feel abandoned, the way I sometimes feel when she's not around. I stared at him, and for the first time, I truly saw him, not just the charming, mysterious Daniel, but a father, a man with pain behind his quiet smile. All the tension from before melted into something softer, warmer. I didn't know, I said gently. I know, he replied. That's why I'm telling you now. I don't want you to feel unsure around me, ever. I nodded, suddenly feeling a weight lift from my chest. My confusion faded like morning mist. There was nothing inappropriate in his gestures, just unspoken kindness, and a kind of lonely love trying to find its way to something familiar. I respect you, I said quietly. He smiled, a real, peaceful smile. Thank you. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of how close he sat beside me, because this closeness wasn't confusing anymore. It was safe.